Hey everyone, welcome to Prospector's Reach. This is a project that I started and finished a while ago. I think I finished this around 2 or 3 months ago, and it was my first ever completed project in Planet Coaster 2. I tried a few beforehand, and I kind of bought this game a little late, um, because I tried Planet Coaster 1 a while ago, and I wasn't particularly good at it. I was pretty young at the time too, so I figured, you know what, I'll do a fresh start. I'll buy Planet Coaster 2. I struggled for a while. I was kind of learning the ropes of the game. I had kind of perfectionism issues, and I lost motivation for a few projects because they're pretty big. But yeah, I am super proud of how this project turned out. It was my first ever completed one, so maybe there's a few things missing with it, but honestly, I just think it's gorgeous. And yeah, so this is a project inspired by Black Mamba at Phantasialand. As you can see, the layout is pretty similar, especially in the first half. And then you'll notice that uh, the land really follows a lot of Phantasialand's kind of design principles. You know, it's really interactive with the coaster. It's very immersive. There's a lot of sight lane control and stuff. And that's something I really thought about a lot whenever I was kind of making and developing this land, which did take a while. Because one, I'm a slow builder, and two, I am uh, well, I honestly just forgot what I was going to say there, but it's alright. Alright, why don't we hop into the tour of this land. So there are three main entrances to this land. There's one over here, kind of near the rides entrance plaza, and then you have one over here and one right here. So I'm gonna start with this one. It's probably my favorite, because you'll see here. Let me speed up the coaster real quick so we get another one on the lift hill. That whenever you enter this area, you get this like nice little peek through the rope to whenever the coaster goes to the Immelman, which I think is a really nice detail. It's very, very Phantasialand-esque, where they kind of have like these little points of coast interaction, and I really like that in this. So yeah, super nice. You kind of walk through here, and you get this kind of gorgeous view of the land. Here, let me actually go into a walking mode so y'all can see that. But yeah, you walk in, you kind of get this amazing view. You get the flat ride down here, which I'll go through. And then obviously amazing views of the coast. You kind of get this nice little vista of the lift hill and the first drop, vertical loop, zero G roll. Immelman right here, kind of get a little peek right there. And then obviously the whole canyon area, which is pretty cluttered, but I like that. The supports add a lot. So yeah, kind of just missed this, but yeah, this zero G roll is probably my favorite element on the ride because it goes right over the path, and it's super quick. And you can just walk straight under it, and there's so many incredible vista points of it, and it's just really nice looking. So yeah, although I would tell you it was a challenge to custom support because you can see it goes almost completely over, like almost every single area is path right here. So I kind of have to get creative with the supports. So you got kind of this, but then this has like a bent support right here, which I don't know if that's completely realistic, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then this kind of crossbar right here that kind of spans over the path. I had to get real creative with this, and then a few more pretty normal supports. But it turned out alright. Turned out really, really nice. But yeah, I mean, you kind of enter this area. It's just like a nice little crossroads area. And you can see, this is probably my favorite vista right here. If I back up a little more past this rock, of kind of the zero G roll as it goes into the Immelman, because I really like the composition of like this rock work right here, and kind of little crates and scenery over there. And yeah, I just think it's really quite nice. This was actually one of the first parts I built with this coaster because I built the ride layout. I kind of built like this little cave in the kind of this area over here a little bit. This wraparound corkscrew right here where kind of the coaster wraps around the rock. And then I built the paths, and then I built this kind of rock piece which I thought looked amazing. I was like, okay, this project might be real. And it was, because obviously it's finished right now, which I am so happy about. So yeah. Um, really proud of that, really happy with that. And yeah, so you can see this vertical loop which goes right over that path. We'll walk through that in a little bit. That's another Black Mamba thing, because they have the path that goes right through the vertical loop in that coaster too. And honestly, that's just really incredible. So that's probably one of my favorite little details in Phantasialand. We're not, wouldn't consider it detail, but just kind of features of the land. Really quite nice of the deep Africa area. All right, we're gonna take a little detour and move to this entrance over here. Um, so yeah, this kind of gives you other great views. That's a perfect little view right there. The coaster going up the left tail, kind of the first drop, vertical loop, and like this whole section of coaster. So yeah, you got a nice view of the first drop, the vertical loop, zero G roll, and then the implement over there, and then kind of this corkscrew, and then right here as it goes down to you, and then the wraparound corkscrew right there. So yeah, a few theming elements over here. You kind of got these cliffside like cabins, which I imagine are where the miners would be, kind of as they go throughout their workday, or where they lived or whatever. So this is another kind of Klugheim-esque, kind of Phantasialand-esque thing, because they kind of have those rafters on the rocks in Klugheim, which I think is a really nice detail, and I like that a lot. So yeah, other elements. This is probably one of my favorite elements. As you can see, it just sped up right there, the cog on the side of the left hill. And whenever the coaster is going up, it speeds up, like it's kind of pulling it up the left hill. And then whenever it's not, as you can see, it slows down. And so yeah, that's a really nice element. So here's the bridge right here. And then here is the land's restaurant. It's called the Drill Bite. It's kind of a play on words of a drill bit, which is like a piece of like a normal kind of hand drill. So I kind of like that play on words. Kind of cute, I guess. But yeah, you walk down these stairs, kind of onto this nice little area. Kind of, you have the restaurant here, the new restaurants, or I say new, like they didn't come out like 4 months ago, but you know, it's the one where the guests can take the tray and they go to one of these seats. And yeah, I really like this restaurant, because it offers a lot of really nice views. You got some nice scenery too. Yeah, you get really nice views of the first drop. You can probably see the coaster come too. Yeah, there it is right there. Really nice views of the first drop. And then obviously also the vertical loop you're super close to, as it goes into the cave, and then over the zero G roll, and then into the implement. Again, just also a really nice view. So yeah, that's a cute little restaurant area. And as you can see, it fits in really well right here. Kind of snuggles in. I kind of was wondering where I was going to put a restaurant in, because I kind of put in a lot of these paths over here, and I was wondering where I was going to put it in, where I was going to fit it in, but I kind of was able to fit it in right here. I think it works really well. So yeah, we can continue kind of walking down this area, or not necessarily. So yeah, you kind of walk back down to this area. You kind of get these nice little views, more cliffside stuff. And what you might notice here is that this is actually forced perspective. These are actually pretty small compared to kind of these palettes over here. That's a nice little detail. It kind of makes those mountains look really, really big. Unfortunately, this is kind of the smallest they'll go. Otherwise, I would have made it kind of more progressively smaller and smaller. But I think it works really nice. And yeah, so you kind of keep on walking this way. Another really nice detail that was kind of like a really foundational part of this land was this custom like path work. So basically the entire land has custom paths. There's not a single non-path part or non-custom part. And they're made out of these really flat rocks, custom rock 15, which are super useful for making these flat paths, because they are just 100% flat rocks. And yeah, I just think it adds a lot, because the custom paths and the normal paths in the game look alright, but they're not perfect, you know. And I think something like this really adds like a lot to kind of the immersion of the land, because I didn't really want like, you know, the cobblestones or maybe like the cracked rock paths. They would have looked fine, I guess, but I think this really kind of lays in the whole deep kind of western mining canyon theme. So yep, this path leads all the way back down to where you can walk down to the zero zero. Here's the entrance that I started with, and then this little area, which I'll get to. But yeah, if you see the stairs here, you might have seen them earlier. You can kind of walk down the zero zero, and you go into this little kind of lower area, which is probably one of my favorite areas in the land, because not only, I mean, you got the coaster going right over you throughout most of the area, so you get really nice views over here, but also it's really not tucked away. But yep, here's the entrance to Orcar Overdrive, which is the flat ride of this section, or this land, sorry. Which I really am happy with how it turned out. But I was gonna name it Minecart Madness, Unfortunately, that name kind of got taken by Universal with the roller coaster at Epic Universe and at Studios Japan. Um, so I kind of improvised, changed up to Orcar Overdrive. Pretty similar concept, but I think it works just as well. And yep, I made this kind of custom ride weight sign. So obviously you got your heights, and I actually did measure using like a scenery piece, like how tall you would have to be. So that is a little short now that I think about it, but I think it works all right. And then obviously pretty tall, that's the maximum height, which in theory I don't think there should be an issue with maximum height in this ride, but I included it anyway. And then this custom ride sign, this is custom media. I made this in Canva, and I modeled it off of a real safety sign based. I think it was Goliath at Six Flags over Georgia, because that was like one of the few ride safety signs that people had actually taken photos of and put online. But yeah, as you can see, kind of got ride name, height. You know, you can't ride if you're got any of these conditions. And also describes it's you know, mild thrill. It's not completely mild. You know, you got some dips and turns and stuff, but it's not extreme or anything. And then accessibility entrance. So let's look it through the priority queue because this is all slopes technically. So that is how the priority access is handled on this ride. And then yeah, obviously you got your wait time, standby wait time, and then yeah, priority queue and standard queue. So yeah, I just showed you the priority queue. It's kind of like this little slope right here. They get this nice little ramp, like right down to the ride. But then if you're in the standard queue, let me unselect that scenery right there. If you're in the standard queue, you kind of, so you go down through this area, this nice little cave. Again, kind of like another little rope section where you get to see the ride. But if you're down here, walk up this area, kind of got some nice scenery in here. You got like these hanging mine carts, which I think add a decent bit. Kind of like these ropes. So yeah, we'll walk through the queue a little bit. Kind of walk under this. You got some nice scenery. This is a really nice detail that I liked. This was something I'm actually added on one of my unfinished projects, but it's kind of like if you use the mythology marble blocks, they look a lot like kind of like this like refined rock. So I just made it the same color as the custom rocks, and yeah, it just looks like it's kind of just been chiseled down to perfection. So I think it's a really nice detail. And also you got the pickaxe in there and stuff. A minecart filled with kind of unrefined rock, and then you got this minecart that kind of pops out of the rock over there. So yeah, this whole area is really nice. And then obviously you got like this kind of rafters area, another hanging minecart, more chiseled rock, lanterns and stuff, and like a little drill bit, which you'll see again later. So yeah, you can kind of walk through the queue, and then I'm not gonna POV it, it's just a flat ride. But I made this custom train for it, where it's kind of like a minecart, and it's got you know, the wheels on the side, and then also if you look in there's also a little bit of scenery in the train too. You know, some little pickaxes and stuff. So yeah, I really like that. And then once you get off the ride, you'll exit, if I can find a path. That is one thing that is kind of annoying about the custom pass, is that since it's technically scenery is like right over the path, you can't actually select any path to walk on, so you have to like kind of search around to find any, yeah. So yeah, this is all of this is invisible paths with kind of the flat rock. And then same thing, I made the staircase with kind of some of the flat rocks. A little repetitive looking, but I think it looks quite fine. Obviously, you got the coaster right here. I will say this is highly unrealistic. You would absolutely have like netting to prevent people from climbing up or prevent loose articles. Because also this ride doesn't have lockers. It wasn't something I really considered with building this project. This was more of like a kind of fantasy perfect ride for me, which means no netting to kind of obstruct the view of the coaster. But that doesn't mean it probably wouldn't exist in real life. But that's okay because it's a video game and I can build whatever I want, you know. So yeah. Moving on, you can see you kind of get right back to the stairs and the entrance over here. And then you get this is probably one of my favorite sections. I think I mentioned that earlier, but you got this really nice kind of atmospheric area. You pass right by this helix that the coaster does. And I think these areas in theme parks are just like the greatest parts, kind of the little secrets and the little nooks and crannies and stuff. Or at least what feels like nooks and crannies. Obviously, someone's going to discover them. And yeah, honestly, I just think it adds a lot to kind of the immersion of the land. You can see the coaster go by right there, and kind of I think these are just the most magical parts of lands, I think. And honestly, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And it kind of goes right under the path earlier. So yeah, yep, you get this nice little view of the coaster, and then restrooms right here. Um, and then you have like a little area under the vertical loop, and there's the restaurant up there and the stairs you take down. You got some vending machines, and then a few just kind of random scattered tables. And you were right under the coaster. Again, maybe there should be netting, but it's a video game. Tis a video game, so yeah. Yep, moving on here, I'll walk all the way back up. Obviously, you also get really nice views of the rocks and maybe that element right there too. And the little bridge you go over. But yeah, so then moving on to kind of this area where it's like a little change in path. So you have like this little element and you can walk on both sides of this. You might notice like these little square looking rocks. Those actually have benches hidden in them. You can kind of see that right there. I guess didn't fully cover it, but yeah. So the guests, whenever they're walking around the land, they'll sit down on the benches and it looks like they're sitting on the rocks. I think that's something I saw on a Reddit post, where you can kind of make people sit on like curbs and stuff. So I kind of thought I'd integrate that, and I think it's just a really, really cool, really nice detail you can add. So yeah, added that, and then you kind of get this bridge over the canyon area, which I think offers really nice views. So you kind of got part of your queue, you got the helix I just talked about, where you got the little secret area down there. And then yeah, you get really nice views of the coaster as it goes through its helixes, kind of more elements, kind of more rockwork vistas and stuff, and more kind of forced perspective. You can see it up there. And yeah, nice little cabin. Again, kind of more views of the flat ride if you want that. And then this is where you kind of move into the main entrance plaza of the coaster, just called the Excavator. I will admit, the contrast on the side isn't great because you kind of have like the wooden lattice behind it. I think it works okay though. And then yeah, this was something I was really happy with, this centerpiece where you got this giant drill and kind of rotates through this mechanism. It's hanging. And something really cool is that you actually made like a little hole in here, so it looks like the drill has been going at it down there. And you'll see that's part of the queue path actually. So you're gonna walk down where the drill is kind of drilling. Again, kind of something unrealistic. I don't think any park would really dig a giant hole just to make it seem like the drill has been doing stuff down there. But you know what? I just figured I'd include it just because I thought it'd be a really cool detail. So yeah. Funny story with this drill too is that I actually originally didn't know there's a drill piece in the game. It was added as part of the sci-fi pieces whenever they were doing those free updates. And I originally made it out of like hundreds of the sword pieces. So I made like I made them like kind of symmetrical and circular, and I made like layers of them, and I used a bunch of rotating pieces, and I thought it looked, it looked pretty decent. So I figured I'd put it in, and then I looked through, and I eventually found the piece, which I think is called like the mutt piece. I think it's part of the like the AT-ATs, as part of the, or not really AT-ATs. I think Planet Coaster would get sued if they included Star Wars stuff, but yeah. But yeah, no, they had this drill piece. I think it's supposed to be the tail, and yeah, I kind of groaned a little bit because I spent 2 hours working in that drill, only to realize that there's this much nicer looking piece in the game for that, which was literally like the perfect thing that I needed. So yeah. And then I promised y'all earlier that we would walk on the bridge over here. So yeah, you can see the bridge that goes right right through the vertical loop. Again, really nice views of the first drop. You can see it go down there, fly over you. And again, really nice views of the zero G roll and the Immelman, obviously the rest of the land and stuff. And yeah, so one nice view you get also, or we kind of just missed it, but yeah, this wraparound corkscrew where it goes right up the rocks. You can't really do that with a non-inverted coaster, but you'll see that in a few inverted coasters where they can hug the scenery really closely. Like Nemesis does that really well at Allen Towers, or like kind of sleeper pick Anaconda at Gold City, where it kind of has that helix around the rocks. Pretty similar to that, I think, and I think it really adds a lot. But yeah. So again, but also this offers a really nice view and kind of viewpoint of the entrance plaza as you walk down. So yeah, before we kind of look at the coaster, there's the third entrance to the land. Pretty simple, it just kind of goes into the lift hill and stuff. Just pops out of the mountain. Oh, did not mean to right click right there. But yeah, you got lifter right there. The exit gift shop, which we'll go through a little bit, and then you got these guest services areas right here, and like this nice little cabin right here, which I didn't detail too deeply. Got chimney right there, some more kind of cliffside cabins and stuff, and then this like little point where, which is also another one of my favorite parts of the land because again offers a really nice viewpoint of the coaster right here. I originally wasn't going to include these guest services shops, but I kind of wanted to add an area where you could see this part of the coaster. I think just kind of areas in the park that don't serve any other purpose besides looking at the coaster. A lot of parks do that. Obviously, Phantasialand does that. Universal Islands of Adventure does that as well, where there's a lot of parts we can kind of just explore and get really nice views of the ride. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with this part. And I think it's just a really nice area because also you get some views of the first shop again, vertical loop as it's right above you. So yeah, just a really nice little cute area. But yeah. All right, now what y'all have all been waiting for. Oh, never mind. First, we're gonna go through the the gift shop, which is called Ore Digger Outfitters. But yeah, just like a nice little gift shop. This is actually the accessible entrance to the coaster. Because I didn't really build a queue with accessibility in mind, or well because the standard queue isn't really meant for that. So instead, I have you go through the exit gift shop. There's going to be this elevator right here, and in theory, there will be a path that takes you to the coaster. I didn't build it in reality. So it's be like a little tunnel. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of added a little bit of accessibility. So yeah, and then ride photos right here. Just kind of some gift shop stuff. And yeah. So we'll go through the queue. We'll start with the standard queue because the priority queue is not as interesting. So yeah, you kind of walk under the main entrance sign. Again, really nice views of the coaster. So it kind of goes to this area. I don't think. Oh, okay, there it is. You walk under this lattice structure and stuff. And then here's that part I was talking about earlier, where you walk under the drill, kind of next to the big hose building. And yeah, I think it's like a really nice element that I added. So yeah, pretty cute, pretty cool. So yeah, you keep on moving. Get to go across these rope bridges, which I built at the very start whenever they added the invisible path, sorry. I built these rope bridges, which I was super proud of. And they go right over where the coaster goes, so again, you get to see that again. Kind of that path interaction with the coaster. There's another one over there. And yep, you kind of walk over here through this rock work right here. And that is a little view of the exit path, which also lets them to see the coaster right here, but it passes right by this helix. You kind of get, again, more cliffside stuff, cliffside theming. Oh, oops. I don't know how to turn those off, to be honest. Kind of annoying whenever that happens, but yeah. If we go back, or if I can find a place to click, yeah. Yep. And then you move through this nice little cave area, which I really like. I don't know, just small things like this where it's like, also, again, more ropes where you can kind of see the coaster go past. Nice little views and stuff. I think anything to keep these queues interesting, because, you know, obviously lines can get pretty long. So I think adding either something really interesting to look at, whether it's like a coaster going by or kind of cool scenery elements or stuff, is always just kind of pretty important for the guest experience. So yeah. So yeah, I added that down here. You can kind of go through this cave. You walk up, and then kind of down the staircase next to the ride over here. More views, and yep, another rope bridge to go across, as you can see. And then you kind of get to this little rope section with the rock work. You can see the ride go over you, and then again past the helix and stuff. Up here. Oh my goodness. No matter how many times I go through this land, it never gets old. It's always so, I don't know. I always just really like what I did here. I love building stuff like this, so yeah. Alright, moving on. Again, another thing where maybe clearances are a little tight here, especially with riders. Maybe you would add some netting and stuff, but it's cool. and it's in a video game, so that's what matters. Yeah, kind of moving up. You kind of go up these stairs over here. This is the helix that goes around to the secret area. You kind of get this little um, cattle pen section, more views of the ride. And then again, maybe it's a little close. Oof, it's a nice view though. And then, yep, we're nearing the end of the queue now. So you walk up these stairs right next to the brake run, and you go into the cave section right next to the station. So yeah, you gotta, right next to the final brake run, so you walk up and into the station where I added this kind of minecart drill prop filled with rocks, which I think is pretty nice. And then your rows, so obviously you got row 9, row 8. These are all built with different sign pieces. I think it's the resort sign pieces. And obviously some of them are tilted because this mine is not very well maintained, I'll tell you that. Obviously you got chains hanging everywhere and everything. And yeah, you got some props in here and stuff. Props in here. And then we'll POV the coaster after I go through the walkthrough. But yeah, and then priority queue, if I can find a place to click, yep. Is pretty similar. So obviously you get to walk down. You walk down over here next to the coaster. You go immediately into the cave area where the coaster makes kind of like a turn out of the station into the lift hill, which you'll see right there. So yeah, that's a cool little cave area right here. And then again, another kind of, oh, sorry about that. Another kind of little cool, as I was saying. If I can find a place to click, here you go. Another cool little rope interaction where you can kind of see the coaster go by. Again, any kind of detail like that, or add something interesting, because maybe this area will be a little boring, even with this coaster going past. And yeah, pretty cool. You can see it go by right there. I love that element. Yeah, you walk up here, you kind of just go to the station, and again, yeah, here's the coaster going by. It makes the turn out the lift hill into the lift hill. And yeah. Again, to the station, here's the priority queue entrance over by row 1. Alright, and then if we move on to the other side, so you exit the station over here. You can see exit. We have a ride operator. Hello. And then, yep, I think you saw this earlier, but another rope interaction where you can kind of see the coaster go through the helix. Oh my goodness, I cannot stop accidentally right-clicking. But yeah, as you can see the coaster go through the helix. You can wave to people in the queue and stuff. And yeah, honestly, it's a really nice detail right here. And then, yep, you can kind of see the coaster going past, kind of see the people in the priority queue as you exit. Coaster goes up the lift hill, and then this leads into the exit gift shop. Obviously, you gotta kind of, every theme park does this. They kind of make you walk through all the merchandise before you walk out, make you buy something. But yeah, this is also where the ride photos are. You can see right here, the ride photo camera is over by the vertical loop, and that is Ortiger Outfitters. And yeah, that is Prospector's Reach, y'all. I am super proud of this thing. It took me forever to build. There was points where I thought about giving up, but no, I finished it up. And yeah, honestly, it's probably the most proud I've ever been of a project. So yeah. Alright. And I just realized I forgot to show the park at night because I did some nighttime lighting, which I think looks really nice. So obviously you've got all your normal lights like this, but then obviously, yeah, some really nice like kind of subtle lighting. I kind of went for more kind of orange, red, and pink colors. I felt like it kind of complemented the rockwork pretty nicely. And so kind of more subtle lighting near the bottom, as you can tell. It's really subtle down here. And then obviously toward the top, try to make it a little stronger. It really emphasizes those peaks a little bit. So yeah, you can see some really subtle stuff right here and stuff. And then yeah, I think it really complements the park nicely, or the land. Adds a lot of great vibes. And there's also a few places where it really makes it nice, like for example down here. I mean, ignoring the bathroom lighting, I think the lanterns really add a lot. That is something that kind of annoys me. You can't really change the lighting that comes out from inside the guest services shops or the restrooms, for example. There's no way to turn it off either. It's also an issue with this flat ride where you kind of have this weird white lighting. It's not too big of a deal here, but there's no way to turn it off, I don't think. Um, which kind of does, I don't know, make the lighting not as nice. But to be honest, it's not too big of a deal. It still seems quite nice. It's an issue over here too. But yeah, overall, it doesn't matter too much. Obviously, you got some nice lighting on the entrance, on the drill bit, over here as well. So yeah, that is the park at night. I think it looks really nice. Um, really adds a lot. It feels pretty magical, I would say. So yeah. Anyway, again, I'll have to the POV. So and a few more cinematics. So hope you enjoy that.